You kind of touched on it, the problem of lemmings, because sometimes without the leadership of somebody, the community behaving like you're saying can go a disastrous direction. And that's one point that I'd like you to address, if you could, any of you, since you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is, we're talking about leadership, but then you just described a model that's leaderless. So what do I do?
Exist. No.
Besides just participate as a fish and not a lemming.
Well, I think that there's what we're talking about is potentially two different things. And when I talk about self-organizing, that's true. The most informed businesses in the world rely upon the self-organization of the people who work there. It doesn't work otherwise. So when I'm talking about how community shifts and change, again, the research shows if in fact not everybody's engaged in the well-being of a community, then we're not reaching our potential. So that doesn't mean that there's not capacities and reliance on leadership. That happens at the micro scale. Think of your neighborhood. When your neighborhood either has a celebration or a tragedy to rally around, it usually happens because somebody steps up. It isn't always the same person. It may shift. Leadership is not I would argue, I really struggle with it whenever leadership is determined by some edict. And I would also argue that an elected official is not a leader unless they choose to be. They're just elected. So leadership is a choice. It's not something other than that. And it's also a dynamic. So that when you're talking about a leaderless environment, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that leadership happens at multiple scales and is a dynamic that changes over time. At the same time, it's not effective in the long term. How's it working for us whenever there's sort of an edict from an individual? I don't think that works. So I think we're talking about a shift in the nature of leadership. I don't think we're there yet, by the way. As a society, I still think we think strong arming is the best answer. So we're really talking about an enlightened change in how leadership happens. I don't know if that helps you at all, but that's the lemming thing bothered me a little bit.
I think of leadership in a different way, that if you have a well-functioning organization, a leader is there to enable those smarter people that are working around the leader to fulfill their highest potential. And if you go in every day and you think about what you're going to do to help them be the most successful they can be in what they are doing, that allows the whole team to succeed. And maybe that's like a service leadership model, but when you have a high-functioning organization, that creates the greatest progress, it tolerates change, and it allows everyone to maximize what they're capable of doing.
Can we slip in one more?
Sorry.
Absolutely, fantastic. We talked about change in your organizations, and I'd love it. I think the folks out here would be interested to know at the community level, if you think about the Tampa Bay region, what's one example of change, positive change, that you think is really fantastic? Like, what do we have to celebrate? What's going on that's really, really great? And if we were to remove your 4 organizations and involvements from the pool to choose from, because we already know they're really great and fantastic, in any order, tell us something you love about what's going on here.
Let me start, because I'm afraid one of these guys are going to take it first. I think I have to tell you, one of the things, and Diane and I talked about it a little bit earlier, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're starting to think of ourselves in a more regional perspective. And the truth is that, these systems we've set up that are called counties were really germane and relevant 140 years ago. They are less so now. I don't know if the history of a county is how long does it take you to get in your horse and buggy and get to the county seat and back in one day. That was what a county, that's how they figured out what a county was. Well, we don't have quite that same problem anymore. So I think there's an opportunity here around. So what are the assets we have as a region, absent the artificially drawn lines that are so often true, that we can draw upon in a real way? I think we're getting closer to that. 83 degrees is certainly, that's part of its mission. But it really is, I think, something that's going to benefit each of our organizations and everybody in the community if we move down that path further.
Thanks, Tim.
I actually like when I overhear someone, and then I've heard myself doing it as well, talk about the region, but also I'm going to veer a little bit more to St. Pete. And when they talk about, it's really cool to be there, it's cool to live there, there's all this stuff to do, there's these amazing museums, and there's, cool places to eat, and you can walk around. And what I love about that is people frame it as it's about being available to people who live there. It's not solely a tourist destination. Tourism is critically important to all of us. But I love when it's talked about as it's really cool to live there and be there and go in and out and make your life there.
It is.
I get the key to my apartment in St. Pete tomorrow. Pretty excited.
Definitely, we're facing some tough times right now. When you think about what's happening with the economy, what's going on regionally, one thing that I've seen as a very positive change is a spirit of cooperation that is growing, and it seems incredibly strong in this regional area where people are looking at innovators, looking at change, looking at opportunity, and they're asking, what can I do to help? Whether that's in their interest or not, they're looking for opportunities to build up others in the community, help them to succeed, because they see that if we can recover as a community, it's going to be good for all of us. And I don't know that you see that in a lot of other places, but it's a growing thing here in the Tampa Bay region.
So I'm going to give you the Coke bottle now. You got the water before. Can you give us an example?
Sure. And I'm going to have to give you a Claro example. We're a startup company and we're struggling along, and it's very expensive to go through clinical studies. For the clinical trials that we do, if I was located in Southeast Florida, every patient sample that we're running in our trials would cost me somewhere between $150 and $300. We have hospital systems here in Tampa Bay who are giving us those samples. We might not be where we are. We might not have succeeded. We might not even have been around without leaders in those institutions and people in those labs who are so committed to seeing success in the community that they would actually do that for us.
Now,
that's unbelievable.
Another point to mention, I think another example of cooperation might be the fact that you're a spin out of USF, right? So an academic institution that produces a commercially viable venture. Right?
Absolutely. So we are. So it's a technology developed at USF. We maintain a very close relationship with the university where we have gaps. They complement us with expertise, with knowledge. We give back in terms of internship opportunities. We go for joint grant opportunities with the university. We look to create career paths for USF students to come and join Claro. So yeah, that's a whole other cooperative model.
Thank you.
Who's next? Is that me? What do I?
Finale.
What's that?
The grand finale.
Oh, thanks.
Drum roll, please.
What are some of the great things coming out? One of the things that I'm starting to see is a lot of people, early adopters, innovators, are really getting fed up with being told how bad things are, and are going out and making changes for themselves. They're not sitting back waiting to go, please come and help us. It's not coming. So a lot of us are getting out. This audience is full of people who are getting out and making things happen on their own. I think that's going to grow over the next couple of years. I think a lot of us are just at the point where you can't wait for somebody else to come along and make things better. You got to pick up the shovel and start digging ourselves out of this by ourselves. So you had a suggestion as to what was going right in here?
Was it today?
But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Demo from Gazelle Lab, bringing Techstars in the community is a huge win for this region. Startup weekend. We've got Startup Bus coming in March, I believe. There's a lot of technology that's starting to really come out of this region, which was never really thought of as a tech region before. that's changing. That's growing actually very quickly. And I really believe, I said it before, the Tampa Bay region's poised for a lot of change over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's going to take that long to really build an entrepreneurial community. But I think we're well on our way.
So I think about Tina Seelig runs the Stanford Technology Ventures program, and she wrote a really great book called What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20. And in it, she talks about the concept of what I think Sean's addressing here. It's don't wait to be anointed. You don't have to wait to don't ask for permission. And then we started with Lucretius. Maybe we can shut it down with Gandhi. We all know this one, right? Be the
change
you want to see in the world, right? So with that, maybe one last round of applause for Free Fall, Tucker Hall, the White Book Agency.